When Seo Yura signed a contract to find love, she never expected to be matched with her ex-boss. The same man who once shattered her career and her pride. Now, bound by rules she cannot escape, she must live beside the one person she swore to hate forever. The rain had a way of remembering her pain. Every drop that touched the city felt like the echo of a wound she tried to hide. Seo Yura walked through the streets of Seoul that night, her heels heavy with the sound of betrayal. She had found her boyfriend with another woman, laughter, intimacy, everything that once belonged to her now replaced by someone else's shadow. At first, she had wanted to scream, but heartbreak silences before it destroys. She simply turned away, her chest hollow, her reflection lost in the glass walls that lined the street. The city glowed, but for her, the lights had dimmed forever. In the days that followed, her mother's voice became a storm she couldn't escape. Marriage, reputation, stability. Each word pressed against her heart until it began to crack under the weight of expectation. When her friend mentioned the famous matchmaking company, Heartlink Seoul, Yura had laughed at first. But desperation has a strange way of looking like courage, and so, she went. The office of Heartlink was dressed in elegance, white marble, gold accents, and the faint scent of roses. Behind the glass desk sat a woman whose smile felt both kind and unreadable. Yura described the man she wanted. Gentle, mature, someone who understood quiet more than words. The woman only nodded, sliding a folder across the table, the Heartlink contract. Inside were the company's policies. Some of them were strange. She could not reject any match without paying a large compensation. She and her assigned partner were to walk together each evening, hand in hand, in public view. They would take turns picking each other up from work, a display of commitment required by the agency. It was a game of love and illusion, designed to turn strangers into something more. Yura signed it with trembling fingers. The woman told her to return in 2 days. 2 days to seal her fate. 2 days later, she returned to Heartlink. The receptionist's tone was calm but edged with intrigue as she handed Yura a sealed envelope. Inside lay a single page, the name of her match. When she saw it, her hands froze. Kang Ji-soo, her former boss. The same man who once humiliated her before an entire office. The man who fired her for daring to question his decision, even when she had been right. Cold, arrogant, inhuman. She remembered the day he destroyed her career, the way his voice carried across the room, sharp as glass. The laughter of her colleagues, the shame that clung to her skin long after she left. And now, fate had looped its cruel thread, binding her back to him. The contract demanded compliance. Heartlink's policies allowed no refusal without consequence, so she packed her things and moved into the shared residence the agency had arranged. A luxury apartment overlooking the Han River, beautiful and suffocating all at once. From the first day, silence became their only language. Kang Ji-soo treated her presence like a business transaction, cold, efficient, distant. He never looked at her long enough to remember her pain, yet every glance carried the weight of unspoken memory. They walked together each evening, as the contract demanded. Sometimes the city's wind brushed against them, carrying fragments of their unspoken resentment. People watched them, a perfect couple on the surface, unaware of the storm that raged beneath their quiet smiles. He drove her home after work. She picked him up the next day. Every exchange was mechanical, but within the rhythm of those forced routines, something began to shift. She noticed his eyes soften when she stumbled in the rain. He found himself waiting by the window when she returned late. The walls they built out of pride began to crack, slowly, silently. Weeks passed before Yura's old company, his rival, offered her a position. They valued the very skills he had dismissed. She accepted, not out of revenge, but freedom. For the first time, she felt her own worth bloom again. When Kang Ji-soo learned of it, something inside him tightened. Jealousy, raw, unfamiliar, and unwanted, coiled around his pride. He told himself it was nothing, that she was just a contract. But when he saw her standing beside another man, smiling, the same smile she once gave him in the quiet corridors of his office, his composure shattered. That night, he returned to their shared home earlier than usual. For the first time, the silence between them was heavy with longing instead of resentment. He saw her reflection in the window, calm, distant, unreachable, and realized the truth he had denied. He had never forgotten her. The following days blurred into uneasy peace. People in both companies began whispering, shocked to see the once feared CEO appearing beside the woman he had once destroyed. In the public eye, they were a mystery. In private, they were a paradox, chained by pride, drawn by something deeper. Yura's resentment melted into reluctant compassion. She saw beyond his arrogance, the loneliness he had hidden behind power. He, in turn, found in her something he had never known, a softness that refused to yield, a strength that shamed his cruelty. Their walks grew quieter, their hands no longer forced to touch, yet they didn't let go. The contract that once bound them by rule now bound them by feeling. Months later, the contract expired. Hartling sent a polite notice. Their obligation was over, freedom was restored, but Yura did not pack her bags, and Konjisu did not let her. They stayed, not because of rules, but choice. Love had found its way through the ruins of their pride. What began as punishment had become something sacred. From the coldness of power and the ashes of humiliation, to hearts learned to breathe again. Not as rivals, not as strangers, but as the only truth destiny had ever written for them.